Hey, everybody, welcome to Potty Mouth. Because Nick, my fully vaccinated and boosted life partner, is down with Coco. I mean, we're married to other people, but we've been doing these episodes for, I don't know, upwards around 3 years. And this is actually going to be the first one that I'm doing all by myself. Not scared, but a little bit maybe. Um, we have, of course, had some awesome people who have appeared on the show with us before, but also we've had a couple who have led it for us and done it by themselves. But this is the first time I've done it alone, so look out. And hopefully you won't click off and say, "Oh, I'll just wait till Nick gets back," because I kind of want to see how it goes. But more importantly, I guess it gives us the opportunity to talk about Nick without him knowing about it, at least for a little while. And he can't defend himself either. So let's start off with this little discussion point about Nick and his bout with SARS-CoV-19. It sounds terrible. So we're going to go with Coco because I think Coco is a much better way because it sounds I don't know what's the word. Oh yeah, innocuous. See what I did there? Um, yeah, it's innocuous. At least it sounds like it is because then you have, that's right, Emily. I'm sorry I can't make it to the party because I have the cocoa. That sounds a lot better than saying COVID. Now, look, let's be straightforward and do a disclaimer. And that disclaimer is this: I'm not going to make fun of this because I've had COVID twice and 2 years apart. The first one was terrible, it sucked. Second one was not nearly as bad, but I have some close friends who have two in particular who almost died, and it's scary. It's some scary stuff, and that's what makes this so weird. Is some people make fun of it because hey, I had a fever and that's it, but some people really went through the ringer with this, and it's not for me to decide or who to say is, well, you deserved it or or whatever. But some it affects people dramatically differently. So I don't want to make light of that. On the other hand, I also want to make sure that we're straightforward about it in that let's just talk about stuff that we can prove. Let's not talk about feelings as um, a lot of people look at it and they just are saying things like, well, I'm scared and so I have to do this. Well, as I said, Nick's been fully vaccinated, boosted multiple times, as far as I know, and he still got it. And he said his is not a fun one. His is not one of the easy roles. And this is the first time, I think he said this is the first time he's had it. So that might have something to do with it as well. So again, I'm not going to diminish what anybody has gone through or is going through. And let's face it, we want Nick to get well. So we'll be talking about the good part of it as we go through it. And so while we're still on COVID, and this will be my last point before we move on, because I think, holy crap, it's been talked to death over the years. But vaccine proponents and mandators, and no, that's not somebody who's on Tinder, uh, those people would have you believe that Nick, at least, no matter how bad it is, that at least he had the vaccine because then he wouldn't have had it. He has it much better than he would have otherwise had he not gotten the vaccine. I call bullshit. There is nothing, no study, no credible study that shows that that is true. And I'm not sure exactly how you'd measure it. So it's mostly a talking point. Look, it can be bad, but the original selling point was if you get the vaccine, you won't get COVID. If you get the vaccine, you won't spread it to other people, both of which are lies. And so you buy into it little by little, or you just say, you know what, it's all a bunch of crap. And much of it is. The other part is it's dangerous. So take what you can know, what you can prove, and move with that. That would be my advice. That's the advice, anyway, that I'm taking and trying to look at it like they. Okay, enough for Coco, at least for today. And I hope that's enough. And Nick, we all wish you well and hope you feel better really soon. Let's give you a Hurricane Ian update. He's out of Florida. Uh, Remember the good old days when they used to name hurricanes after women? Yes, we were blameless as men, and I liked it that way. Uh, no longer. It's It's all of us are in on this. And so, if you don't know, my wife Lisa and I live in Port Charlotte, Florida, and we were kind of right in the target zone for Hurricane Ian for some time at least. So, at the last minute, we got an evacuation order in our rental property where we've been for a year. We're building a new house. Still waiting for that to be done, but hopefully in a couple of months it will be. So we were kind of worried about two houses, one that we're building and is not quite finished and has no garage door, no soffits, so on. You get the idea. And one that is full of our stuff. So uh, we're thinking, okay, well, this it could be really ugly. We did evacuate because, and people laughed at me for this. Took I started like a hurricane plan back in May, I think, and in that I was just kind of laying out what we would do. I even chose the hotel if we had to evacuate, and I pretty much said, uh, based on where we are and what the storms can do, if it's a category 3 or larger or greater, rather, we had planned to evacuate anyway. And so I chose this hotel, and I'm not going to tell you where it was because I don't want it to be full next time I try. But it's kind of mid-state in Florida. I may have already told you in the last episode, but that's okay. But it was a nice enough hotel. It's not great. It was nice and comfortable and 90 miles or 90 minutes rather from our rental property. So all good. Chose it. We got there. I had made reservations early. We had everything ready to go. I had go bags for just about any circumstance, food storage, stuff like that, water. So we were pretty well set. And I'll give Lisa props. She gave me props. So even after it was, he's doing a hurricane plan, it actually worked out. And so that's my first piece of advice, maybe, is think about that. If you're in a hurricane prone area, you should have a plan. It's a lot easier to execute and make changes. And believe me, I still had lists going when we're 3 days away. And if you'll remember, the European model had it curving into the state, whereas the US model had it going straight to the panhandle, which it didn't. So I'm thinking, well, it can move right in. And sure enough, that's what it did. Fort Myers Beach, you saw what happened there, Pine Island. They are both within 30 miles of our rental property. So anyway, we headed off to our hotel, and it was fine. We were good for the first day. We got there on Tuesday, and the hurricane came Wednesday afternoon and Thursday. And it was, you know what, it was okay. The hotel was great, and of course, suddenly it's a vacation, and you're in this nice hotel, and they had a restaurant and a bar, and yeah, so we're kind of hanging out, and this hurricane stuff isn't so bad. Met some nice people. I had chosen the hotel because it takes pets. And at the time when I made the choice that we were going to use them, we had our dog, who we've since had to put down, sadly. But on a good or bad note, there were like 50 pets in this hotel, and so their dogs barking. And if you're a dog person, it's no big deal as long as it's not right next door and at all hours of the night. Uh, Most of them were fine, and frankly, day two, most of them were just confused, and that's okay. You have to expect that when they're just being yanked out of their homes and their daily routines. So anyway, there were 50 dogs at this place. So you can imagine it was, people are walking them, and guys' toupees are blowing off, and the dogs out there trying to get them to do their business, and it was kind of fun watching that and not having to do it ourselves. So it was a nice enough hotel. It was fine. We were enjoying cocktails at the bar, and then the storm hit. And it wasn't crazy where we were, but it hit, and it looked like it was heading, once it made landfall, right for where we were. So we're like, oh, good. We moved from one place, and it missed the area or by a little, and then it's heading right to where we are. We're evacuated. It came to the hotel, kind of, and then the eye wall sort of broke down. So we really didn't get a lot. It was windy and rainy, and the hotel, we looked out the windows of the floor we were on, and there were two palm trees, and it was great because you could see them blowing in the breeze and kind of tell how high the wind was based on how far they were bent. And in the morning, we woke up and it was only like this because the other palm tree fell down and was uprooted and laying across the driveway. Didn't hear it or anything. But if you know palm trees, they have kind of um, a small root system. It's a ball essentially, and they don't really spread out like many other trees do. So they don't have a lot of, especially when the ground is wet, they don't have a lot of stability. So a 40, it was probably 40, maybe a 50-mile-an-hour wind by the time it got to us there. They, I mean, it just uprooted it and it was down. What I do understand though is that they can replant them, which is kind of cool. You can't really do that, I don't think, with deciduous trees or trees that have bigger root systems, but I digress. So it was windy. It was windy, it was rainy, and then the power went out. It actually went out, I think it was Wednesday night, 5:30. I know it was after 5 because we were having a cocktail at the bar. And as we're sitting at the bar, I was reminded of the day before when I saw a big forklift bringing a generator around the side of the hotel. And I'm going, yes, that's why I picked this hotel. They understand and they're prepared for it. And sure enough, this generator is all hooked up to their panel on the hotel. And I'm, yes. So here we are sitting at the bar and everything goes dark. And it's okay because I've got a drink. And the place is just it's just pitch dark, and then suddenly the lights come back on, and I'm going, yes, the generator, and everybody is, woo, this is awesome, and we were so psyched because the power was back on. And so anyway, we stayed, had some dinner, went up to our room, and there's no power. So the generator was only powering the lobby area, the kitchen, which was good if you wanted to eat, and some of the lower level areas. That's it, not the rooms. So suddenly I'm all impressed. And yeah, we had no power in the room. No power, no Wi Fi, no anything. So we're in the dark, literally. It was okay. It's not that big a deal, but it was just, and honestly, it was just that 24-hour period. On Friday, the lights came back on. So we're psyched and we're giving them props. There was some guy on a balcony in the hotel and he's waving at the utility guy who hooked us up. And thank you. And we all kind of felt that way. The problem is we had to check out on Friday. And I even asked at the front desk, do you have any rooms available where we could stay, one extra night maybe, just because we have power and I know there's not going to be power at home. Oh, sorry, we're booked up. We have a whole bunch of utility guys coming in. So their rooms were booked, and what am I going to be mad at the utility guys? Um, there were trucks everywhere in Florida. So we moved from, and this is becoming kind of like the old days when a friend would show you a slideshow. Let me show you a slideshow of our vacation. You're going to love it. And you're just like halfway through trying to hang yourself. I'm trying to make it move a little faster than in real time. So I will. Friday, then we decided we got to go back home and let's see what we're facing. So on the way, this 90-minute drive home took 5.5 hours. We ended up after being turned back twice from flooded roads, and I'm talking about flooded 4 or 5 feet deep. You could tell, and when there are waves in the flood waters over the road, you probably shouldn't do it. We have an F-150. It's not doesn't have a lift kit or anything, but yeah, I'm good with a foot and a half, 2 feet of water if I have to. Didn't have to. We turned around, ended up going way north to Highway 60, if you know Florida, and then to the west, and then south on 75. Uh, that took us about 2 hours north of our house when we hit 75, hour and a half. Uh, it goes 60 goes right into Clearwater, which is pretty far north. Anyways, we went south on 75, worked out fine. We were able to get there, a couple minor detours as we were going in, but the closer we got to home, the more damage we saw. So a lot of trees down, um, and down. I mean, really down. My friends in the Midwest, look, we're all familiar with tornadoes. I've got friends in Oklahoma, and yeah, they know tornadoes as well. Texas, um, but this was like a tornado that lasted 6 hours. And my son, who he and his family decided to stick it out, they ride it out, I guess is what you say. Uh, ride it out in Venice, Florida, which was not too far from us, but they had a good facility. They had generators, so on. And he said, though, that they had 100+ mile an hour winds for 2 hours straight. And that's a lot. I mean, that's some serious wind. And of course, they had trees down, flooding and things like that. All safe, thank God. So we got back to our neighborhood. We stopped first at the house we're building, and we were not sure what to expect, and we're praying a little on the way in. And we pulled in, and we could see that. Oh, we were surprised because they had done all the drywall. When we left on Tuesday, the day before, there was no drywall left. It was stacked on the floor of the house, and we're thinking, "Oh, great! If it rains in, this is not going. This is going to be wet wall, not drywall." But they had put it all up, and so we're wow. That's pretty cool because now we're getting close to hopefully to the end of the project, at least closer. And when we went in the house, I couldn't believe it because in the garage they had a stack, I don't know, 6 or 7 sheets of drywall yet. There's no front garage door on this house. And they were all dry sitting inside the garage. I couldn't believe it. I mean, there's stuff that had blown in, some debris and so on, but that's all. So I was amazed. And then we went into the main house, and 2 sections of drywall had fallen. There's insulation underneath the drywall, and it was all wet. But as I told you, there were no soffits at all. So what happened is it looked like it blew inside the soffits, rain and wind and water and everything, and it got it all wet and too heavy probably, and it dropped a couple of sections of drywall. No big deal, easy enough to fix. And on the shingles, there was a roof cap, just a little cap that had come off, and so they're going to replace that too. So that's it. We were lucky, and we were praying Thanksgiving at that point, and just very lucky, fortunate, blessed to walk out of there without really any damage at all. No trees down. We cleared a lot of them, but none of them were down anywhere near or in the facing land. So that was good. And now we're thinking, okay, now let's go to the rental where we have all our crap and see what's there. And you have to picture it, and I know I've mentioned it before on these episodes, that when we moved in, we weren't sure how long we were going to be there. It's been over a year now. We just put stuff, it's got a 1-car garage, so we could pull the Harley in, and then we would have a place to store some of our stuff that we didn't need to unpack. Well, it's been there for a year now. So we have boxes everywhere. The bike's still in happily, and we just weren't sure what was going to happen. So we tried to get stuff off the floor as much as we could throughout the house. We had stuff up off the floor, but you're always afraid. There's going to be 6 inches of water, and it's a whole different ball game. We walked in. There was water in the lanai in the back, probably an inch and a half deep, and that's it. Nothing else in the house. And these are windows. And one of the reasons we left is because these windows are original. And they're from, I don't know what, 1950, 60 maybe. And I'm thinking, there's no way these things are going to make it. And they did. So I don't know. I give them props because obviously in a 100+ mile an hour wind, it survived. So that was great. And the wind was great. And we knew that because there were a whole bunch of trees down in the front of the house, in the back of the house, kind of all surrounding. Nothing hit the roof. The roof was fine. It was just replaced a few months earlier. So yeah, really blessed. We had some cleanup to do. Since it's a rental, our the people who own it are going to pay to have the trees taken care of, and so the bigger problem there was that the power was out. So no power, no internet, no nothing. And it's not just a few hours and they'll fix it. This is a major ordeal. So we were there for a week, um, and for a week we had no power. We have a generator, and the generator is fine. It works great. It's a gas generator, which would not be allowed in California, but it is in Florida. And so we used it like other people all around us. And the problem then becomes we had plenty of gas in the truck, but we didn't have enough for the generator for many, many, many days. My fault. I should have had more gasoline available, but you question that too. Is that what if something happens to the house, then your big gasoline can blows up and causes other damage. So, to make a long story longer, we decided to go out on a gas run, and we were trying to find gas stations that were open. Well, if you know anything about what happened down there, businesses were leveled and no one had power. Most of it is back up now, and give some props to Florida Power and Light, and certainly all the people who came in from out of state. What an amazing job! And they were everywhere. I mean, I've never seen so many bucket trucks and line trucks, and there were guys and ladies from everywhere around the country. So big props to them. It was pretty amazing what was put forward. All that said, we were still without power for a week. And when we left, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment, we came up to Wisconsin in a previously planned trip, and we still didn't have power at the house. So we were generator for the entire week. Um, all of the all of the food in our fridge and freezer froze, or excuse me, thawed. Everything went bad. That was the same for almost everybody, just because if you evacuated, that happened. The grocery stores, their power was out for 2 or 3 days. Their stuff went bad. Um, and to make it worse, they weren't doing garbage pickup. So if you've ever had rotten food in your garbage bin, oh man, this is the second or third time, and it is not something I recommend. Um, it was it was interesting to say the least, but they did, thank you, pick up the trash before we left. And so we got rid of that stuff, and that was a blessing. But my point was, we did not have to run the fridge on the generator. We just decided to keep the fridge down because otherwise, then you have to run the generator 24/7 to keep the refrigerator cold. Didn't do that. We would run a fan because the air didn't work. I don't have it hooked up to the house. I'm hoping this doesn't happen that often. So we just plugged stuff in. We plugged in, let's see, the important things: fan, coffee maker, hot plate if we were going to make a meal or something. And had to get a little creative a couple of times because you couldn't go out to a restaurant because they had no power. And some of them that had generators, well, they were packed with people, those that had it, and the same with gas stations. As they would open up a little at a time, they'd pump gas until they ran out. And then somebody else would open up and they'd pump gas till they ran. If you weren't in that line, and sometimes the lines initially were half a mile long, if not longer. So it became kind of a challenge when we finally needed to get gas for the generator. I want to say it was Tuesday or Wednesday, the week after the storm. Um, we heard that there was a place in Venice that might have gas. So we pulled in there relatively early in the morning, and both stations that had gas the day before were out. And so we're, oh, great. And then we looked across the street, and there's another station, and there's a line of vehicles, probably 20 vehicles waiting in line. We're going, we can do this. Cross the street, get in line. And sure enough, we got in and we got gas. I didn't need gas in the truck. We did need it though for the generator. So I had bought a rolling gas can I think it was a 14-gallon can of plastic, and we filled that. And that's it. I didn't fill the truck. We just got, I want to say it was like 60 bucks worth of gas, 40 bucks worth of gas. And then we got out of there. They did not have any premium. I always put premium in when I'm doing small engines, whether it's my Harley or whether it's a gas trimmer or something like that. I've heard that from many people that you should use the highest octane you can. All they had was 87. So I went to an auto parts store and got an octane booster, and that worked great. And off we go. So we had enough gas. We made it through the week. We hopped on our plane Saturday morning to come up here to Wisconsin, and it worked great. So everything was fine, and we managed to get up here. But as I said, we had no power from the moment we got there after the storm to the moment we had to rush in and get to the airport. At 5 in the morning. So that was the good part about being at the airport. They had power, and we're, yes, I got power, I got Wi-Fi, I'm good. So next stage is here up in Wisco. We're here for about 10 days, and I said we had planned it. We're moving my mom into an assisted living facility. So that's why we did that. And everybody said, well, I hope you guys were okay with the hurricane. And we went to since we've lived here before, we went to our past church we used to attend. And so good to see our friends there. And they're all asking how everything was. And I tried to give them the abbreviated version of what I just gave you, which is houses are fine. We're good. We're safe. God loves us. Yeah. And so that was kind of how it went. But really nice people. And they're concerned about it. So mom, um, a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, broke her hip. Mom's 93 years old, has lived on her own for forever. She's my dad and two husbands after him, after they all three passed away. She's been on her own for, 9 years or something like that. It's a massive house that she and her third husband built. Um, not telling you that for any other reason that we have had the talk about maybe getting into assisted living in the past. And how I usually left it with her is, look, to choose to do it is way better than being forced to do it. And she would say yes, but I knew her heart was here, and there are so many people that have helped her. Heck, she was driving up until a few months ago, which scares me to death. But just in this small town, so it wasn't anything beyond that. Again, she broke her hip, had surgery at 93 years old. For her to have hip surgery because they think they can repair it, that's pretty impressive. She really is in good shape, sharp as a tack mentally, and we are again so thankful for that. Um, and she is too, and that's cool to see too. She has been in rehab since the surgery, and it's difficult for her because she's trying to learn to walk again, and has some pain because she's hurt herself a couple of different ways trying to walk the old way when she should be walking the new way without getting into all the great sort of details. But she's got a wheelchair now. And so in moving her from the rehab the into the new facility she'll be in, we have to make room for the chair and so she can maneuver around this place, even with the hopes that she'll be walking with a walker assisted in some way at some point potentially. So we want to be careful about all of that. You don't want to make her feel like she can't do it, because she can. But with the pain, you really have to manage that. So hopefully we'll be able to get that handled as well. Um, she had damaged, fallen and damaged a kneecap about 15 or 16 years ago, which makes me hurt just to think about it. But she had bought rather a scooter, a three-wheeled scooter. I say it's old because it was 16 years ago. She used it for maybe a month or two, and the little kind you ride on and can move around. And it hadn't been used other than perhaps one or two drunken stupors by by a grandchild cruising around the house with the three wheeler. But not surprisingly, we were able to get that thing back up. We changed batteries and had it serviced by a guy nearby who did that, and it was great. And the thing cleaned up great. And we're hopeful that she might be able to ride that around, so she's got some mobility in this new facility she's going in. So that's what's going on. Um, when we so we've had some furniture moved in anticipation of her move, which is going to be the same day you see this or hear this. And so we're excited about it, and hopefully she is too. But we want to have the apartment set up nicely for her, so she's not sitting in there in an empty space waiting for movers. Um, got her some furniture. She is pretty much set up very nicely. But when we were moving in some of the furniture, there was a nice lady who was one of the residents, and she's down by the front desk. And I said to a lady at the desk, I said, "Hi, I'm Lois's son, and I have the key, and this is the room number, and I'm wondering if you could tell me how to get there." And she said, "Oh, of course, you just go here, 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 here." And this lady came over and she said, "I'm her neighbor. I'm right next door." I said, "Oh, no kidding. Well, how nice is that?" She said, "Well, I'll take you up there. I'm going up right now." And I said, "Well, you sure you wouldn't mind?" She said, "That would be fine." So my buddy Matt, who many of you have heard uh, before screaming into my ear on these podcasts, and a couple of the delivery guys, Matt's son, we were all going up to the room. So, okay, sure. So we went up with her, and we get in the elevator, and she's just talking. Oh, she's going to love this. They have a little pub, if you can believe it, in this assisted living facility. So she can, oh, we have happy hour every Wednesday. It's awesome. So it made me laugh because I'm picturing all these folks who are in residence there that are sitting up at the bar having cocktails on Wednesday night, and then somehow trying to make it back to their rooms. This lady was all about it, though, and very social, you could tell. And that's exactly what my mom wants and needs. So we're looking forward to that. She took us, long story longer, up to her room, and she said, "Okay, well, this will be your mom's room right over there." And I said, "Well, thank you so much. That was sure nice." And she went into her room and closed the door, and we were looking at each other, sort of smirking. Because what I didn't tell you about this lady is that she was blind, and she had the walking cane, and she was taking us to the room. And so, knowing that I'm sure she had exceptional hearing, I didn't want to say anything loudly outside her door. So once we got in mom's apartment, I said to Matt, "Well, that was the blind leading the dumb." And as it turned out, he, of course, was thinking the same thing. So, laughing our butts off. If you could have seen it, I guess it was funnier in my head when we saw it, but so true. This nice, wonderful blind lady, who I hope is going to be a great friend of my mom's, was with the stick down the hallway and telling us stories as she went. And there was a line of 4 or 5 guys behind her, and she was indeed leading us, worth every second of it. Uh, in the meantime, we are in mom's house, and we are keeping it clean, and trying to make sure that everything is running well here. She is not in a hurry to sell it. Mom is a big fan of. We've grown up in this town. I was born and raised and baptized and everything in this town. So the house that we used to be in is on the other edge of town, and frankly, it's kind of a dive now. It's really been deteriorated, sadly, especially when you were born and raised in that place. And so she has always had a soft spot and has wanted to buy it back and fix it up, which would be a money pit, trust me. Um, if maybe somebody will someday do that. I see a lot of this stuff, and it's cyclical in neighborhoods all over the country, where a house looks really terrible, somebody buys it, fixes it up, it's beautiful, and then it goes through a state of decline at some point, or someone spends X tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars and makes it new again, or the way they like it. So hopefully it's just part of a cycle that's eventually going to change. I don't know. But she's attached to homes, and this is no exception. So for now, she's been blessed financially that she doesn't have to sell it, and she can still afford assisted living just fine. And so we're going to do our best to use it as kind of a meeting place when we're in the area when we come to visit her, and we're happy to do it because it's the hotel prices are zero here at her house, at least so far. I don't know if she's planning a loyalty program that would get us lowest points when we stay. But anyway, so it's nice to be here. It has become kind of our family connection place. If not the house we grew up in, that place would be much too small for us these days. Um, because it's always I don't know if you know this about places where you've grown up. What you remember for some reason, it's always much smaller in reality than it was in your mind. I don't know if it's because we were kids or whatever, but it just seems like that's the case with several places that we've been exposed to over the years. So we're happy to be here. It's a great house. It's a massive house. It's way bigger than the one we're building, and Lisa and I could not be happier about that. But so yeah, we're just going around the house doing things, and we can't hear each other. Hey, honey, what are you? She can't hear me. And where are you? I don't know because she's on the other end of the house. Um, so we put on some miles in here. I think I was at my step goal the other day. Within, I don't know, 7 hours of walking around this house back and forth trying to get some things done. So anyway, it's pretty cool. Let's see. I had a list of things that I was going to talk to you about, and as you can tell, I've been going on like crazy here. Oh my gosh, man, over half an hour of me just meandering. See, this is where Nick comes in so handy because he does all the talking, and I just sit here. Well, I'm mostly the eye candy. I think you know that. Um, and so he has all the topics. I'm not going to go much longer, but I did want to just talk about one thing which has been really cool. We flew in to Rockford, Illinois, if you're familiar with Rockford. We're able to use two small airports. We flew Allegiant Airlines. We've done that a couple of times. And by flying out of Punta Gorda and flying into Rockford, it's really pretty cool because these are small airports and you don't have all the stuff that goes hand in hand with the big ones. So easy to get in and out of. Really friendly people. We rented a car at Rockford, and we've done that a couple of times. And I think I reserved a mid-size or something like that. So we weren't sure what to expect. Got up to the counter, and my friend Stephanie at National, where's my bell? Ding. Um, has been nice to us in the past, and she said, "Oh, Mr. Quaddy," and "Oh, it's nice to see you again." I said, "Well, hi, how are you, Stephanie?" Yeah, okay. And she said, "Oh, they're just cleaning them up as fast as they can, and there's a line of six people behind me." And she said, "How about would you like an F-150?" And I said, "Well, I drive an F-150 at home." I said, "Well, yeah, I won't have to figure out where everything's located or anything like that." She said, "Well, great, I got one for you." She gave me a gas allowance because it sucks gas. Our F-150 has a 36-gallon gas tank. This one has about 24. I miss my 36-gallon tank because, at least in my mind, if I see, oh, that only burned a quarter of a tank, in my mind, I'm going, well, that can't be that much. How much is a quarter of a tank? A quarter of a tank in that is like half a tank in the one I'm renting. Plus, there's a suspension difference that I can't explain. And of course, in Wisconsin, because of the winter summer thing, the roads are bumpy as can be right now. So um, I this truck it rides like a truck, and Lisa and I are not used to that. It's been okay, um, but it's great to have the cargo space, because, as I said, we've been moving stuff for my mom. Uh, hey, but I've filled it up twice now. I'm going to have to do it again, I'm relatively sure. We have not driven that far. So, National, if you're listening, I'm not going over in miles. It's unlimited. unlimited miles. I think I should be safe. But I'm telling you, the roads in Wisconsin are way better than they are in Michigan. So there you go, Wisco. There's my backhanded compliment. But they're bad, man. They're just rough and bouncy and so on. So we know that we are very fortunate in Florida because it does not get where we are much below 40 degrees, if ever. And we don't have the buckling and so on of the roads. So you get used to that. And we have. So, but I will say the weather up here, it's unbelievable. Fall has always been, when we've lived in the Midwest, my favorite time of the year. Far and away my favorite time of the year. It is beautiful. It is absolutely spectacular. We went for a drive earlier today, and 64 degrees and sunny, not a cloud in the sky. So it cannot get better in the fall here. And of course, the trees are changing, and that's about peak or maybe a little past peak in some of the spots. But beautiful part of the country and beautiful time of the year. So if you ever get a chance and haven't been up here, and I know that's true of the Northeast too. The Allegheny Forest in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania is amazing, and of course north into Maine and Vermont. It's beautiful. New Hampshire, beautiful country up there. Michigan, a crazy beautiful area, but the bumpy roads. And you know I'm right, Michigan. Sorry about that. We'll have the snowbirds coming back to Florida probably when we head back at the end of this week. So the delightfulness of not much traffic is about to fade away. It's going to get ugly. And these are, I believe, the people that buy homes in Florida and then do the summer up north and winter in Florida. I, I believe they only allow the worst drivers to do that. And so uh, it is just stupid how bad some of these drivers are. And it's just consistently bad. So it changes what you do. You're constantly on the lookout. It's like I'm riding the Harley all the time, even when I'm in the truck, because I'm assuming people are going to mess up. And I'm really not very often disappointed. So there. And do I ever mess up when I'm driving? Yeah, but by comparison, I applaud when I, maybe mess up and blow through a yellow light. But other than that, it's crazy. So looking forward to that when we get back home to Florida. Beyond that, this is where I usually shut up and let Nick talk for half an hour. Uh, he always says, I always talk way more than you do. Not this time, buddy. Did all the talking. Um, but we're sure missing you, Nick, and wish that you would get better soon. And listeners, viewers, thank you very much for hanging with me today. If you have any comments, anything you want to add about what I said, I got to tell you something. If I did a radio show, and all those years I listened to guys like Brandmeier and Kevin Matthews and those guys in Chicago, I don't know how they did it. I mean, you just don't go all in. If we had some sponsors, we could do commercials. Come on, sponsors, suck it up. Uh, we do like 10 commercials, it seems like, and I could drink some water and have a cocktail, something to lighten things up. But I hope you suffered through it okay. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. And hopefully, we'll have a healthy Nick Cubic joining us. I'm John Quaddy. Thanks everybody for joining us. And you know what I always have to say at the end as I'm clicking onto the right screen. See ya.